everybody. Um, in this talk, I shall share the prospects and opportunities of transformative STEM education in Nepal. Okay, the term transformative STEM education or transformative education. What do you think of this? What is transformative education? Well, many of us relate transformative education with change, paradigm shift, okay, and change in system, um, change for the betterment, and betterment can be defined in many possible ways, okay, such as meaningful learning, authentic assessment, so on and so forth. So let me begin. Uh, so when we start making the case of anything such as transformative STEM education, we try to make a case on the basis of the problem. So what is the problem? So rather than starting from the problem, I start with the symptoms. So what symptoms that we have been facing or experiencing as far as Nepali education system is concerned? The first is, of course, there is a huge growth since the time of Darbari school in Nepal. Um, One of the major problems, major symptom is that the achievement is not satisfactory at all levels. No, at all levels. It's basic education, secondary education, and higher education at all levels. Okay. Recent reports from Education Review Office, University Grants Commission show that the achievement is consistently low. Likewise, our students have reported that the educational experiences are not very positive. Okay, students express that the schools are not very helpful in cultivating their all-round development. Okay, likewise, there is a continuous pressure of rote memorization without making a clear sense of what it is. Okay? Likewise, there is a tendency to blame victims, such as students, such as teachers. Okay, victim blaming is a very disempowering approach. It denies the system analysis of the system. It denies the depth study of anything, okay, such as education. So that has been evident in many forms of dissatisfactions, not the questions, not the depth investigation. Likewise, there are disempowering beliefs that education or teaching um, is just to transmit the knowledge, is transmit information. So there are many other disempowering beliefs as to what counts good education, what counts good assessment, what counts a good learner. Okay, so this has also been coupled by business as usual attitude among the masses, that the tendency is that nothing can be changed in our education system. Okay, and also we are destined to perform this way. Okay, we cannot improve than this. So this type of attitude, this type of approach doesn't allow us to engage deeply and meaningfully in issues of educational significance. So these are the symptoms that I shared with you. Is actually the problem. For us, the problem lies in the disengaged educational processes. So there is a minimal interaction between classroom and life world. The classroom context, the text that the content that we teach, and the actual life world outside the classroom is different. So the curricula are unconnected. There is a minimal contextualization at all levels, meaning that there is less interaction with the context. Okay? So this is one kind of problem. Second problem is educational wastages, because the issue of educational wastages has been raised since 1973. If we look into the Nepalese literature, on educational systems, systemic reforms, then we find lots of these writings. I have referred to these two gentlemen here, Singh 1973 and Hada 2010. So here the idea of wastage has been discussed in terms of primary inefficiency in primary education. However, this wastage cannot be just in terms of dropout or in terms of failure, but it has many subtle dimensions. There are many other wastages which has not been accounted for because since the education is not so relevant, then there is a wastage of time. Okay. Similarly, meaningful and authentic educational processes are not in place, and thus is also wastage of resources, time, and efforts. Likewise, when we have graduates missing skills that are very essential for their everyday life, then this is a wastage of time, resource, money, and everything. So there are many forms of educational wastages, and we need to look into them. Similarly, if we see several reforms in the last 30, 40 years, then these appears to have to committed big promises, but the delivery is minimum. For example, if we see the curriculum documents, let's say in science curriculum, they talk about inquiry-based learning, but what happens in curriculum development process? These big promises are not integrated in actual curriculum, not nor are they integrated in the practice, in classroom practice. Similarly, there is a big gap in plan and implementation. So the plan is to implement, let's say, continuous assessment, but the actual implementation is too shallow, is too superficial. It doesn't actually carry the attribute of continuous assessment. Likewise, there are wrong prescriptions for the symptoms. For example, uh, there is a tendency to suggest that teachers are not competent enough or students' background is weak. They may be fine, they may be okay, but they are not the actual prescription, because if the system itself is performing so low, then you cannot just prescribe one particular group. Okay? So it's the problem for us. When we think of cure, then there might be three possibilities of cure. One is that you have a test result that and then you prescribe that there is a group of people, they cannot do well, or they have not been doing well. So this is one form of prescription. You focus on individuals or a group. Second is that you focus on process. Okay, so you have all these diagnosis and you see that process is at fault. For example, classroom teaching is not going well. Teaching learning processes are not doing well. Our implementation process might not be working so well. This cure is okay. This may be okay, but this may be necessary, but not that sufficient. Okay? So cure three is the test are used to see systemic faults. So it's not just test for the individual cure. There might be individual care might be needed, but we need to look into the process and also in the system. So this is cure three. So this is what we needed. So these three prescriptions can be discussed in three possible ways. The first is the present system is fine. So the system is fine, meaning that the curriculum is fine, everything is fine, textbook is fine, the way we teach is fine. Okay. And then what we need to do then? We need to improve individuals. Okay. So then the focus goes on individuals improvement. Okay. So second is the system may be fine. So we shift from is to maybe. Okay. So in that we need to work at the process or pedagogical level. We need to improve the pedagogy. We need to improve classroom teaching learning process. We need to help teachers to be facilitative. We need to help school system to be facilitative, and we should improve the classroom. Okay. So in this context, this is not a bad suggestion, but may be necessary, but still not sufficient. So what is the third prescription then? The educational system or culture needs a change. We need to change. We should change our classroom. We need to change our assumptions. We need to question our assumptions. We need to go in the process of change. Change, I mean, we might see that change is a process. So the cure itself is a process. It's not like change that you do one time and then you leave. Okay. So what I have to say. And then the next is the idea of structural transformation, because what happens in the context that in our context, the emphasis is on is highly compartmentalized culture in which different subjects are taught independently, separately. So this gives rise to a form of disciplinary egocentrism, that there is a minimal interaction among teachers about their teaching learning activities, and also hierarchy of subjects. And when there is a hierarchy of subjects, then students are not able to connect it within across the subject areas and beyond the subject as well, because the problem that we discussed that lie in problems that lie in the world are might be beyond the subjects. Similarly, there is a lack of connection between the syllabus and the life world. The syllabus is one kind, it's full of subject matter, and the life world is different. Okay, and this is highly this promotes a disconnected subjective approach, and this promotes early 20th century skills, meaning that we have a particular foundation, and these foundations are to be taught in a manner that students have to memorize the concepts and ideas. Likewise, the alternative to this one is interactive and collaborative culture. In that, what is expected of faded disciplinary boundaries. That disciplines are connected. It's not like they are separate. Okay, and then more and more real world issues can sneak into the disciplinary, the faded disciplinary boundaries, and that there are the emphasis on inter and multidisciplinary collaboration, not just subject teacher teaching one particular subject and staying within the cocoon of that particular subject. Okay, connection with the life world. So it's not just the connection within the subject, but also connection with the life world, and focus on 21st century skills and emphasis on authentic problem solving. And this approach we call STEAM approach. Okay, this is called a STEAM approach. Structural transformation can be, and then we need an example. Okay, so how can you do this? So if this sounds like good, but how would you do in a classroom context? So in this, I have tried to illustrate by a poem, through a poem by Lakshmi Prasad Devkota, the poem Kopila. Okay, Natipno Hera Kopila. This is something that you should not, pluck the buds, but you have to leave them to. You have to give opportunity, ample opportunity to blossom. Okay, so how can I teach this through a STEM and a STEAM approach? For example, for language arts, this is about reading, writing, listening, speaking, portraying, even using multiple genres. Is a poetic genre, then they might write a story, they might write an essay on this, or they do lots of other kind of activities pertaining to language arts, okay, such as portraying, such as playing games using certain language arts methods. Similarly, for arts and crafts, they may draw, paint, dance, sing, and they do lots of performative activities. Maths, they might count the words, and that from a particular is in stanza and rhythm, and create a mathematical model, how it goes up and down, so kind of thing. And similarly, they might study a flowering process of a particular flower, and then in terms of number of days, of different flower plants and plot on the graph. So in this way, they learn maths. And science observe a flower plant, model the flowering processes, use predict, observe, evaluate, model in their inquiry processes. Likewise, in engineering, technology, design an ideal garden that is safe for each bird to blossom. So that they can be engaged in designing a particular ideal garden. Similarly, in if they are engaged in group work activities, then they develop their leadership potentials as well. So they develop communication and decision making abilities, and also other leadership qualities, okay, such as speaking, such as leading the group, such as building the partnership among friends. So this is how we call STEAM areas. Okay? So in this approach, we talk about science as inquiry process, mathematics as computational thinking, arts as creativity and imagination, engineering as creative design, technology for prototypes and products. So this is a kind of very brief idea of STEAM education. Okay, so there might be several other let's say learning areas. It's not just STEAM, but this is an approach. Okay, STEAM is an approach, not different subject areas just blended. There might be many other areas beyond STEAM. Okay, might be sustainability might also come there. Many other skills also come there, such as 21st century skills, which I'll discuss in little later. Okay. So in this context, we can think of two kinds of visualization. One is STEAM minus arts, which is like this. There are different subjects, and these different subjects are treated in isolation, without connecting with the world, without connecting themselves. Okay, and STEAM plus 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 arts. It's not just plus arts, but plus 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 arts. Why I say plus plus plus? There are many approaches to deal with the artistic dimension. Okay, so there might be science, technology, engineering, mathematics, sustainability, arts and design, okay, ethics, so on and so forth. So as I discussed this 21st century, I refer to 21st century skills. They can be connected, they can be discussed in many forms, such as these 5 different skills. One is digital and multiliteracy skills, social entrepreneurship and productivity skills, communication and thinking skills, personal and collaboration skills, and likewise citizenship skills. These skills are very, very important. They are generic skills. They are not just one subject specific skills. They are not just for language related skills. They are more than on those skills. They are generic skills across skills, or they are called meta-curricular skills. Okay, so the curriculum can be designed. They can be the design principle for curriculum. So we talk a lot about futuristic education. So we prepare students, we claim we prepare students for future, but what type of future? What is future as such? How can future be taught in a way, or how can students be prepared for future? How can we know future? So these are the questions. The first question, the first type is what we found is this: the system gives you the future. Education system is fine. It has exams. It certifies you, and you prepares for your future. Okay, and this is a very limited view of future. Second is the teacher gives you the future, and teacher is there inside the classroom. He or she teaches factorization. Okay, and types of energy, different forms of noun, and then gives you the future, whether that is future or not, whether factorization is the future, whether definition of energy is the future. Okay, and likewise you study different subjects, and these subjects give you the future, whether the subjects actually are into future, they go into the future. I don't think they go into the future, they go into the past. And the future is, and then the final one, the future is actively imagined and created. This has to come. Okay, the future cannot be given, cannot be known, cannot be accessed fully. What we can do, the future, we can actively imagine, actively imagine and create our own future. There is not just one future, there are many. this approach, then this cannot be given, but imagine actively, not the future, but many possibilities can be mapped out. You cannot map out the future, solid future. You can map out possibilities. And so how can we do that? That can be done on the basis of present. Okay, present can be used to imagine and construct one's one future. Okay, so this is so from this perspective, then what do we calls education as and for present life? So we start giving the access to present life, not shutting it down, not taking them into past, and teaching the subjects, limited subject skills, which are very less useful for their present and future. So where should we start to change the system then? The system is so where should we start then? From everywhere, not just from one place. Okay, so in this map, in this diagram, what I've tried is that the curriculum is something very, very important, because it holds everything. It holds classroom, it holds school, it holds community, because community, where is knowledge? Knowledge is in community, and these knowledge and skills, attitudes, behaviors, they go into curriculum. So community is very, very important. Okay, if we keep community out of curriculum, then probably we won't be able to improve or transform the school system. That's why curriculum is so powerful. In this talk, in the final part of this talk, I shall share the perspective of curriculum. How can we go about developing STEAM education curriculum? Okay? So when we say curriculum, there are many perspectives, but I have tried to use these four. Okay? One is content driven, in which science, technology, engineering, art, social studies, everything, you name it, they are treated as different subjects, compartmentalized. There is minimal interaction among these subjects. Experience driven. Learners' experience play an important role, vital role. Dialogic classroom processes are very, very important, and they lead to STEAM approach. Okay. Outcomes driven. So demonstrable performances based on multidisciplinary tasks, and this is STEAM education, in which students solve real world problems with the help of these different approaches. Okay, they can be harnessed through STEAM approach. Okay, change driven. The final one is change driven. Curriculum is not just for knowledge acquisition, but it has to contribute to social change. Okay, so that here STEAM education for social transformation. Let me explain one by one. Curriculum is content or subject matter. So the main focus of the curriculum is the subject matter to be taught within the four walls of the classroom, and teachers often ask these questions. Okay, this question: what topics, exercises, test activities do I need to cover? So during the teaching of this subject for this year level. So this is this is one of the limitations of the curriculum, of the image of curriculum is content or subject matter, because students are not exposed outside of discipline, or even if they are exposed, as that would be very minimal. The framework of subject matter is so limited that it cannot take you outside of this level. Okay, so for example, if you do some English within the disciplinary boundary, then there may be so many things which are not English, and then you can't do them, although you can use language related skills there. For example, there may be so many things outside the classroom that they might be connected with mathematics curriculum, but you might think that there are no symbols, there are no algorithms, so why should we go outside the classroom? Why should I take my students outside the classroom? Because mathematics is in text. Okay, so is and so is other so is the case of other subject as well. Now curriculum is experience. This is a second form in the earlier category. So curriculum is perceived to be a process of experiencing meaningful learning. Okay, so see there are two keywords here. One is process, the other is meaningful learning, resulting from classroom dialogue. So dialogue is the main thing here. Is the social constructivist classroom approach, in which learners bring experience with them, and then that becomes the basis for discussion. Okay, so how are my students making sense of their learning experiences, and how can I make use of their out of school experiences in teaching and learning activities, in teaching and learning processes? So here subject boundaries expand, and then STEAM is possibility here. STEAM as an approach is a huge possibility because the students come with experiences. These experience might they distribute across different subject matters, and they can be connected with authentic tasks, and these authentic tasks can be reflected inside the classroom, and they can be discussed on the basis of their authentic task, not just a subject matter, okay, not just on the basis of nation or an algorithm. Build a kitchen garden at home. This is an example. In this example, the students uh, can be given a task, or the students can be tasked to prepare a kitchen garden at home or a prototype of it. Then they use science to see the soil, plant, environment, okay, and also mathematics to find the area, height of an ideal garden depending upon the size of the land. And similarly, they design a plot, they design the the kitchen garden and arts aesthetic, and then they prepare prototype. Probably they make it more appealing, how to plant something there, okay, so how to make the raised bed. So this kind of arts and aesthetics also come there, okay, as much as the pragmatics and science is required to understand the nature of soil and nature of plant and also environment. So curriculum is learning outcomes. This is third in my list, the third one. Here, this is also very, very important. This also crosses the subject boundaries. If we are to focus on learning outcomes, then we need to go beyond subject matter, because learning outcomes are beyond content. Okay, so teaching focuses explicitly on the learning outcomes to be achieved by students. So these learning outcomes, and then uh, if we are to focus learning outcomes, then we the teachers and students come together to understand their learning process, their outcomes, and then it becomes the teachers often ask these questions: how can I make my teaching fully transparent and enable my students to judge their own levels of achievement as aspirational learners? So here is not just to finish something, but to take students in the process of judging themselves, of assessing their own learning outcomes. And this can be done in even in primary grades as well. We can start making the outcomes clear. Probably, let's say in Nepali, probably they are studying, let's say, the first letter. And then if that is the outcome, then that can be made explicit from day one, and discussing with the students how they learn, in their own terms. And then let's say by the end of that week, probably you discuss with the students then how much they learn and how they reflect their learning process in their own terms. So this is also possible in lower grades, okay, so students can be given the opportunity to express their learning process, how they feel, how they express, how they judge themselves. So this is another example, demonstrate an ability to solve everyday problems. So this may be very generic learning outcome. So here example, the problem is there is no community library in our world. So then students can be engaged, and this problem can be given to students, and they, by using mathematics, they collect data of potential members of the library, how many members can there be, okay, so they develop observational skills. Where are these they located, observation is also very important. Similarly, they might design an engineering building of different rooms, because they have to propose this, to the mayor. And arts, they might write a proposal, they prepare posters as to how they can present the proposal to mayor or the other body, or a group of parents, okay. They might also fund for the library. The final one, curriculum, is reconstruction or transformation. So this is also very important curriculum perspective, curriculum image, that we can bring, STEM perspective here. So actually, it's not just as curriculum or education is not just for acquisition of knowledge, skills, but also it's transformation in itself. So it provides opportunity for learners to become change agents. So then school provide knowledge and values that prepare students to improve society, because society is always improving. Okay, society is always in in the process of change, but again that change can be better facilitated by the change can sometime in a wrong direction, so education can correct it. So this is the purpose of curriculum as reconstruction or transformation. So the teacher then asks this question. This question, one of many questions, is how can I enable my students to develop abilities to participate as critical citizens in a democratic society, to help resolve 21st century global crisis. So, for example, I'm making this video during this pandemic, and we have global crisis. If there is a pandemic, we all are affected. Now there are many other crises as well, global crisis, and there are many local problems as well. For example, one of them is, the environmental degradation. We have, climate change issue. We have, urban poverty is another issue. Okay, so this migration is an issue. So there are maybe many issues, and they cannot be. We cannot just leave them. And there are many issues related to, if as far as Nepal is concerned, the discrimination, gender-related issues are there. So we need to actually focus on them. We need to bring these issues in the purview of curriculum process. Okay, so what then one example, social entrepreneurship in a rural village. So the rural village is a context, and social entrepreneurship, that probably is a transformative agenda here. So in that, students shall collect information about possibilities that local people can harness. So one would be they might do a feasibility survey, what can be done. Okay, so they might come up with 3 possibilities: beekeeping, poultry, goat farming, etc. And then they might develop a poster for community people, hold one-day workshop to discuss these possibilities. Okay, so how transformative would that be? How, actual learning would that be? So they might use, mathematical skills, scientific skills, engineering design skills, arts related skills, communication skills, so on and so forth. And this is how education should move forward. Okay, this is one example. These examples I shared are not the examples, but some of many examples. So in this way, although I presented these curriculum images or curriculum perspectives differently, here when we talk about STEM curriculum, they come together. There's a little bit of subject matter. Of course, we need disciplines. Disciplines are a great thing because they offer us the opportunity to use specific skills, okay, such as mathematical skills, scientific skills. They are very important. But we need more different curriculum perspectives, different curriculum images coming together. For example, experience, dialogic process, interaction process is very important. Learning outcomes, and making learning outcomes more transparent than, than just making is the property for teacher or adult persons. Currently we have objectives, but these objectives are known by teachers, even not known by teachers, known by educators. Okay, not even teachers do not access objectives or, competence, they call competencies. I think learning outcomes are for all. Okay, so and then reconstruction transformation, here curriculum is to contribute for social transformation, is not just for content acquisition, which I have already demonstrated an example. In this way, we came up with the system institution perspective in which curriculum has a transformative intent, and we have facilitative teachers, and the leadership has an open vision of education, not just cramming, rote memorizing, and sitting exams. Okay, beyond that is envisaged by those 4 curriculum images. Okay, and also we also develop active learners. Okay, now you might say that, oh, the learners are passive because we have made them passive. We have not given this opportunity to act, to think, to question. So let's begin that. Okay, so for this we need collaborate. We need to develop collaborative culture. We need to be reflective of our strengths and weaknesses, and we need to be critical of our own practice. Okay, critical is not blaming. Okay, being critical and victim blaming, I compared in the beginning of my slide, are different. Victim blaming or blaming somebody is different one of being critical. In being critical, you become skeptic, you raise question. questioning is a very good thing. We need to learn that. We need to help kids to learn that, and we need to help institution to learn this. And also creativity is a very good thing, and this is actually education means creativity. Okay, we need to be creative for all sorts of reasons, because we survive because of our creativity. Human civilization came thus far because of our creativity, because of our innovativeness. I don't need to explain this further. Okay, as far as Kathmandu University School of Education concerned and STEAM education is concerned, School of Education in general and STEAM education in particular, um, that we focus on research and development through two programs. One is MPhil in STEAM education, and the other is PhD in STEAM education. Likewise, we also focus on technological, pedagogical and content knowledge, which we call TPAC. This competence is very important, and also professional development of in-service and pre-service teachers. This is done through MEd in Maths Education and MPhil, MEd in STEAM Education. Both of these programs will run from August. Okay, so MEd STEAM 1-year program starting from this August, and MEd Mathematics Education starting since 2006, and it is going on. So this is what I have to say. Thank you very much. Thank you.